Have you ever seen a politician canceled online and thought, well, they deserved that? Or maybe you thought, isn't that a little extreme? In the world of politics, cancel culture has become a controversial way of holding leaders accountable. But the big question is cancel culture helping democracy by keeping politicians in check? Or is it silencing voices and limiting honest discourse? We're going to dive deep into cancel culture and its effect on politics, with real examples, statistics, and perspectives from both sides of the aisle. Let's start with definitions. Cancel culture, in general, refers to the practice of withdrawing support, often publicly, from people or institutions after they've said or done something considered objectionable or offensive. In politics, this can look like being removed from congressional committees, losing campaign donors or endorsements, facing calls to resign over old comments or behaviors, or getting banned from social media platforms. Supporters of cancel culture argue that it's a modern form of accountability because politicians hold power and the public has a right to challenge them when they cross ethical lines. But critics argue that it often bypasses due process and becomes a trial by Twitter, where context is lost, apologies don't matter, and the punishment outweighs the offense. There are cases where public backlash has clearly led to meaningful accountability. For example, in 2017, multiple women accused Senator Al Franken of inappropriate physical contact. The most well-known incident involved a 2006 photo in which Franken appears to mimic groping a sleeping woman's chest during a USO tour, the woman being radio host Leon Tweeden. Other accusations followed, including claims that Franken had grabbed a woman's waist or behinds during photo ops. Franken initially apologized, sometimes vaguely, and requested a Senate Ethics Committee investigation. However, public and political pressure mounted, especially amid the broader Me Too movement. More than 30 Democratic senators, including prominent figures like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, publicly called on Franken to resign. Under pressure, he did, despite never being formally investigated. Was this accountability or political overcorrection? That question still divides many. And in 2019, Representative Steve King sparked outrage during a New York Times interview where he said, "White nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization. How did that language become offensive?" This statement was seen as defending or minimizing white nationalism. King tried to walk back the comment, but it wasn't the first time he'd drawn criticism for racially charged remarks. He had a long history of controversial comments on immigration and race, and in response to this latest controversy, House Republican leaders stripped King of all committee assignments, effectively sidelining him in Congress. He lost support from donors and party leaders alike, and in 2020, he lost his primary to a Republican challenger. In this case, cancel culture arguably functioned as a corrective force, one that imposed consequences for years of unchecked behavior. But this leads to the topics of proportionality and free speech. Should accusations without due process, no matter how strong, lead to resignation? Should one poorly worded interview cost a politician their career? After the January 6th Capitol riot in 2021, President Donald Trump was permanently banned from major social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat. Twitter cited the risk of further incitement of violence after Trump posted tweets saying things like, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away." Critics argued these posts helped incite the attack on the Capitol. Supporters of the ban claimed it was necessary to prevent further violence and misinformation from spreading, especially from someone with such a massive platform. But others viewed the decision as a troubling overreach by private tech companies. For the first time in history, a sitting president of the United States was deplatformed, essentially silencing one of the most powerful voices in the country. According to a 2021 Pew Research Center poll, 59% of Americans supported the decision to ban Trump, but 39% saw it as a violation of his First Amendment rights. Now, while social media companies aren't legally bound by the First Amendment, the concern here is broader. Who gets to decide what's acceptable speech, and who gets erased from the digital public square? Even some liberal critics, like the ACLU, warned that such bans could set a dangerous precedent for silencing unpopular or controversial political voices. And since then, the landscape has changed. Elon Musk reinstated Trump's Twitter, now X, account in 2022, saying permanent bans should be extremely rare. Was this holding a leader accountable, or was it a step towards censorship? Several politicians have faced waves of outrage over comments made online years earlier. Madison Cawthorn, a former Republican congressman, faced criticism over insensitive jokes and misleading claims from his past social media posts and interviews. While some of these were legitimate controversies, others involved posts made when he was a teenager, later used to discredit his character. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has also been targeted. In 2018, an old video of her dancing on a rooftop went viral, intended to mock her, but it ultimately backfired, as many found it harmless and endearing. Then there's the case of Katie Hill, a former Democratic congresswoman who resigned after intimate photos were leaked without her consent. It's technically not a tweet scandal, but it shows that personal content can be weaponized in cancel culture narratives, often disproportionately against women. And many of these incidents, such as these, beg the question, are we judging politicians based on who they were or on who they've become? Humans grow, beliefs change, people make mistakes, especially when they're young. But should a dumb tweet at 17 end a political career at 35? That's where cancel culture often blurs the line between accountability and cruelty. One of the biggest criticisms of cancel culture is its effect on open political discourse. When politicians are constantly afraid of saying the wrong thing, many become overly cautious, or worse, inauthentic. Rather than engaging in tough conversations or challenging ideas, they stick to safe, scripted talking points. And a lot of people fear that this environment promotes performative politics, where leaders avoid meaningful discussions in favor of image management. In a 2022 Cato Institute study, 62% of Americans said they were afraid to share political opinions out of fear of social backlash. If elected leaders feel the same way, how can we expect honest debate? Cancel culture in politics can shine a light on misconduct. It can force accountability when institutions failed, and it can amplify voices that were previously ignored. But it can also erode free speech and create fear-driven politics that punish people unfairly or prematurely. What we need is a balanced approach. Accountability should involve facts, context, and proportional responses, not just viral outrage. And maybe politicians, like the rest of us, should have the space to grow, apologize, and learn from mistakes. But is cancel culture in politics help cleaning up corruption? Or is it going too far? Please drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a discussion, not a cancellation. Until next time, stay informed and stay critical.